Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ariel and I am a recently accepted medical student and I will be starting school at an allopathic United States medical school this fall. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit more about my journey to medical school as well as why I decided to apply to medical school early decision and the different aspects that weighed into my decision. So if you want to hear more about my experience applying to medical school and why I decided to apply early decision, please stay tuned for the rest of this video. And if you like it and would like to see more content like this, please like this video and show some support as well as subscribe to my channel. So with all that out of the way, let's get right into the video. I thought it would be helpful to make this video because when I was initially researching the early decision program, I could find very little online about it. It was kind of this elusive early decision program and I didn't know if it was a good idea for me to do it. There wasn't a ton of advice and I wasn't successful at finding anybody who had successfully applied and gained admission to medical school through the early decision program. And just to recap what the early decision program is, the early decision program allows you to apply to one medical school that you definitely want to attend, and you can only apply to that medical school and no other schools. And the only point that you can apply to other schools is if this one early decision school you've applied to rejects you, and then your application is open to apply to other schools. So the reason why applying through the early decision program is appealing to some applicants is because you apply, you submit and pay for only one medical school application, and the breakdown of the medical school application process is very costly. Let me know down below if you have any questions about that. I can definitely make another video on it and go into more detail. The other draw is that you are notified no later than October 1st by the one medical school that you applied early decision to whether or not you've been accepted to their program. And then from that, if you weren't accepted, your application is released to apply to other schools at that time. And if you're accepted, then congratulations, you've been accepted early and you've saved a lot of money on applying to medical school. I figured it might be helpful for some people to hear my story on why I decided to apply through the early decision program. So if you're interested in that, just continue watching this video and I will explain to you guys why I decided to apply through the early decision program and why I am so thankful I did. So before I go into this story, I also want to preface it with letting you know that there are so many articles out there. The only information that I was able to find about this program online was reasons why not to apply to this program. So I was definitely put off by that and it worried me because I was always somebody who looked to others for advice. I am not a huge risk taker. I like to take calculated risks and do my research. So the inability to find a lot of information on this topic was a little bit deterring to me, but I will explain later why I actually ended up doing this. During my first application cycle to medical school, I applied to a lot of schools. And maybe in another video I will outline what schools I applied to and why I decided to do that, but I figured, okay, I'm going to apply to a lot of schools. And after submitting all these applications, after interviewing, after everything, I ended up on one wait list. And then I was denied admission to the school very late in the application season, the following May. So after that, I was obviously very discouraged and I had to pick up and turn right back around and look at my application and figure out, where do I go from here? What do I do now? What are my options? And what is going to be the best route for me to get in successfully this next time around. After receiving that initial rejection, I reached out to a few different advisors and friends and colleagues on what should I do now, where should I go, and what are my options really. One of the people that I worked with and I worked extremely closely with my entire undergraduate time and even after my undergraduate when I was in graduate school, I will link a video above that goes into a little bit more of my background, my previous early decision video, video if you want a little bit more detail about that. So I reached out to my academic advisor and she was extremely helpful throughout this entire process. I could not have gotten to this point without her. I am just so grateful to have met such an incredible, inspiring advisor and a woman who helped me get to this point and helped me find the tools that I needed to become a successful medical school applicant and to just broaden my horizons in general in my academic career. After conversations with her, we came to the conclusion that applying to this school early decision would really show, hey, I'm committed to your program, I'm committed to your school. You waitlisted me the first time around, but here I am again and I'm only applying to your school. I fit really well with the school's mission and this is where I want to be for the next 4 years and for my medical education. So that was one conversation I had with my advisor, who really knew me and knew my background and knew my application really well and had helped me for the previous 5 years up until this point. I also at the same time reached out to an academic advising company, and I won't mention who they are specifically, to get a second opinion on what they thought I should do given my application, given my circumstances and the background of who I was as an applicant. And basically the gist of what they said to me was, you are not competitive enough to apply to the early decision program. And let me just tell you that I understand where they were coming from with their advice. They were being realistic and I value that approach, and I think it's an important mindset to have during this process because you really do need to be realistic about your chances because it's very competitive and very difficult to gain admission and you don't want to get your hopes up and just be disappointed. So this is what they said to me. They said, you are not competitive enough. Don't bother applying. It's a waste of time and you're just not gonna get in. Your stats are not high enough. One major misconception, and I look at this in this way, I don't know anybody personally who has applied through this program and has been accepted through this program, but I do know that statistically not a lot of people submit their application through the early decision program. So by that account, there just aren't very many people to look to as data points to see, well, am I competitive enough to apply through the early decision program? What does a competitive early decision applicant look like? And in the advising community and on websites like Student Doctor Network and other medical school pre-med forums, I think that the consensus is you need a 520, 526 MCAT and a 4.0 with perfect research, extracurriculars, volunteer work, perfect personal statement, perfect application, and connections to the school to warrant applying through the early decision program. And I am here to tell you that that is not true. And I really felt like it was important to mention that in this video because I wish somebody had told me that no, I don't have a perfect MCAT score and perfect GPA and I applied through this program and was accepted. I wasn't able to come across anybody who had done that, or if anybody had, they weren't letting people know that was their experience. So I just really thought it was important to put that out there and let you know that I was not that applicant, and I don't believe that you need to be that applicant to get accepted through the early decision program. So just to continue on with this story a little bit, they said, you are not competitive enough to apply through the early decision program. And I said, okay, this is the only school that I was waitlisted at, so I'm gonna do it anyway. And that was kind of a big thing for me because I don't usually make decisions like that. I am not usually abrupt in that. If somebody who is supposed to be this very trusted source of knowledge had told me a year prior, don't do this, it's a terrible idea, you're not gonna get accepted, I would have said, okay, I'm not gonna do it. But I said, okay, thank you for your opinion and I am going to do it anyway. So I just want to use this as a little personal example as to why you need to sometimes take people's advice with a grain of salt. It's definitely of value to gain other people's advice, especially people who are very experienced in the field. But on the same note, if you feel very strongly about something, in the end, it's your decision and nobody else can make that decision for you. So I went ahead and applied, and I applied to the early decision program in like mid-July, I think. So it was very late in the application cycle because it kind of took me a little bit of time to turn around my application since I got such a late rejection from that school. Just to recap on why I made this decision, I worked very closely with an advisor for many years who knew me well, who knew the school I was applying to, who thought it was a good idea for me to apply early decision. So that was one weighing factor. Another weighing factor was what I figured is that if this is the only school that I was waitlisted at my first round of applications, then why would I bother applying to other schools? I'm just gonna apply to that one school that waitlisted me because something was good enough in my application or interview to gain a waitlist position. So I was very close to gaining that acceptance, and maybe if I show them, hey, I'm really committed, I fit really well with this program, maybe that would be just enough to gain acceptance, which ended up being the case. The third and final piece to the puzzle of this, why I ultimately decided to apply early decision, is because I felt like I could have done better on my MCAT. My MCAT score wasn't terrible, but I didn't have a 95th percentile MCAT, and I was convinced by these advising companies and by Student Doctor Network and by all the forums out there that you're not going to be a successful applicant if you don't have a 95th percentile MCAT score. And that is not true. That's not true. Don't believe that. Don't be discouraged if you don't have that score. If you are a well-rounded applicant, you will get into a school that you will fit in well with. That's it. End of story. End of rant. I had to put it in here. It makes me so angry. What I had told myself when I was applying is, okay, I'm not going to waste a ton of money applying to all these schools. I'll apply early decision to the one school I was waitlisted at, and if I don't get into this school, I'm going to have to retake my MCAT and I'm going to have to reapply a third year, so why waste the money? Just apply to one school, and the worst thing that's gonna happen is the same thing that happened last year, and they deny me and say no, sorry, and then I go retake my MCAT, because that was really the only part of my application that was somewhat lacking. If anybody's interested in what my application looked like and the activities that I did, let me know in the comments down below what specific questions you have. I will probably make a video on it in the future because there are just so many components that go into an application. It's too much to talk about in this one video. The overall gist of it was the MCAT was the one thing I was concerned about on my application a little bit. I said to myself, what do I have to lose? Worst case scenario, I'm rejected, have to retake the MCAT. I'm in the same place I was if I didn't apply early decision. So I hope this video has been helpful for anybody who's trying to weigh whether or not to apply to medical school early decision. It's a very difficult process, and it's just one more decision that causes anxiety in pre-med students. I just wanted to share my story so that you know there are other people that have been there, and I was accepted successfully through this program, and I'm so glad I did it. And I wish that I would have had access to a student who had gained admission through this program and their experience, not just an advising company or a forum online of people giving their ideas about something that they probably haven't ever personally done. Thank you so much to everybody who watched the entirety of this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel for more videos to come about my experience to and through medical school. Please also let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions about the medical school application process or any questions about my experience in my journey. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.